Welcome back, guys. And today we are going to talk about topic that all have faced at least once in your life, maybe many more times. And that one thought that keeps on pushing us that, oh, you are not fit for this. This is not meant for you. And we often ignore it or we just accept it. But Dr. Faith with us is going to show a complete new perspective, and we are going to dive deep into this, how we can face this in a different way, how we can handle this, how we can overcome this. So we have Dr. Faith with us. Hi, Faith, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So you would like to introduce yourself, take
Sure.
us through who you are?
Sure. My name is Dr. Faith Gunjiri. I am a leadership coach, a leadership educator, a mother of two.
Okay.
That's always important to add in there because it's a very big part of my identity. Former full-time professor. I was teaching in the US for almost 2 decades.
Great.
And then decided to come back to Kenya in 2021 in the middle of COVID.
Yes.
And start life over.
I have read your book, so I have got very little idea about it. But yes, she has written a book called Imposter Syndrome, and this is what we are going to talk about it. So, Faith, tell me first. Let's talk about your journey, how it has been in US, then coming to Kenya, that shift. How did you handle it?
Yeah. So I went to the US in 2003 to start graduate school. And my goal at the time was, let me go learn more about leadership so I can come back to Kenya and be involved in leadership development.
Wow.
Because I'd observed, I was the child of teachers. My dad was a headmaster. So I'd grown around leadership.
Right.
But it was things I was noticing about it that were uncomfortable for me, even at that young age of, the people who became leaders were getting leadership because they were senior. You're the older person in the room, so you become a leader.
I think that was the trend before.
It was a trend.
I think there was no clarity about leadership. It was taken for granted if you're in an organization or any other place for that matter. If you're senior enough, you are the leader.
You become the leader. You've been there long enough, you become the leader. And then I also noticed, this would have been, late 1990s and those early 2000s, that there was also the tendency to give men positions of leadership over women who were more qualified. And I think
it still persists. It's only the percentage might be reduced or grown. But it's still there.
It's still very evident. And so those sort of critical observations and incidences led me to want to study more about leadership.
Okay.
And at the time, I'd been participating in a leadership development program actually through my church. And I was seeing the same things playing out there. So you're reading the books, but you're observing the leadership you're reading and like, something
what is
wrong
happening
here.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up going to study leadership for my doctoral program. And
so you went for studying?
Yeah, I went to study, yes.
Okay.
I already had a master's, so I went to get my doctoral degree in leadership studies. And I thought I'd be back, 3, 4, 5 years. It took 2 decades. And in that time, I became a professor. I taught in different institutions. I taught undergraduates. I taught master's students. I taught PhD students, all in leadership or business, nonprofits, whatever the sectors, but leadership was,
what was the core area of your research or the teaching?
So my core area of research itself was, I started with women in leadership. So that's been sort of the running thread.
Amazing.
So from that observation about all these men getting these positions over women who are more qualified, that triggered the desire to learn more about women and leadership. So my actual dissertation was about African women and leadership right here in Kenya.
Wow.
Right? So I interviewed women who are in positions of leadership, whether it was politics or, the NGO sector or even in social enterprise type businesses, all these areas. But the core thread was that, there were sort of pioneers in some of those positions. And so I wanted to learn more about how they did leadership, in spite of the fact that, there was a lot of pushback. And against it. So that was the foundation for, studying and teaching and learning about leadership. And so I continue to expand those areas of research, but the women in leadership has been core. Like
Okay.
it's remained a big part of what I do.
Amazing. That's I think one of the interesting areas. Actually, my shift in life or in career started when I did a small course of women in leadership
See?
at Strathmore.
See?
Just talking to women,
Yes.
facing the same issues.
Yes.
And yes, you can cope up with that. There are tools to handle it.
Yep.
It really changed my life. So if someone asks me, how did you, move from that career to, I always say it was that one course
Yeah.
of women in leadership and it changed.
It does change things because you realize that one, you're not alone. That the things you're
Correct.
experiencing are actually quite common,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
The challenges are quite common. And even the success strategies, right, can be shared amongst many different women.
Yes.
This week, actually, on LinkedIn, I was going back through some of my published research and translating it, down to, what does this actually mean, 10, 15 years later for a practitioner audience, right? For those people who are in leadership. And it was just amazing to see those core themes about how women lead, what enables them to survive and thrive, how their sort of strong sense of spirituality was one of the core themes that keeps coming up, how that enables them to overcome their challenges and remain committed to leadership. It's like, oh, this is still true even now, right?
Yeah,
that the things that help us lead effectively remain the same. The circumstances may change. The positions may change.
Your background, the culture might be different.
Might be very different.
At the core of it, it is still the same.
It is still similar things. And so it's been very interesting to just have that career shift. But anyway, how did I come back to Kenya?
Yes.
So in 2020, when COVID was striking, first of all, I was getting ready to go on sabbatical.
Okay.
I was, of course, very tired. By the time you go on sabbatical in academia, you've taught and researched and done all this. And in my case, because I used to keep changing jobs after a few years, I had never been on sabbatical and I'd been teaching continuously for about 15 years.
Wow.
And so I was ready for this break. I'd gone through a divorce just a couple of years before. And then my ex-husband, my co-parent, died at the beginning of COVID.
Sorry.
Right? So I spent those first few months of COVID just trying to navigate raising the kids on my own. I'm at home, stuck indoors because schools had closed. I'm trying to teach a kindergartner and a daycare child at home. I can't do any research because I'm, basically, I decided to come home. And when I came home, everybody is asking me, by the way, why are you doing your sabbatical in America? Why don't you just come and
to Kenya.
Chill in Kenya? Right? Even though COVID was big, yes, it was a little different here from how it was in the States.
Yeah, of course.
Right? We could be outside.
We were better. Yeah, we were better.
We could be outside. We could still congregate, even if it's in small ways. So I decided, why not? Packed my children up and came back to Kenya.
That's how you came to Kenya.
That's how I came to Kenya. It wasn't like a planned move.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that.
No, there was no plan.
Did you really plan to come back to Kenya?
Nope. I just came back. And then, unfortunately or fortunately, I suffered a heart attack.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Right after I came back. So in March 2020.
So it was like, maybe actually that leave was really, really required for you.
It was burnout.
Completely burnout.
Severe burnout. So when I came back and it's like the system realizes, oh, we're safe now.
Correct.
We don't have to run anymore.
Yeah.
It just broke down.
Correct.
So I ended up with a heart attack, COVID, double pneumonia, the works. Was in hospital for several weeks. But when you're lying on that hospital bed, looking at that sterile ceiling and thinking about your life and looking back and wondering, why am I doing this? Right?
Correct.
I loved my work, but it had stopped working for me. Right? The environment had become toxic. Too many changes in leadership. Again, those things about, you're Black, you're female, you're an immigrant, all that stuff.
Do you really want to do this?
Yes.
Is the question.
It had really been affecting me, right? But, sometimes when you're in it, you can't
keep
think
on
your way
pushing.
out.
Yeah.
You just keep pushing.
Yep.
But now that I was lying there, having survived this thing, I'm like, why am I still doing this? What's the point? And
Correct.
so at that point, I decided to do several things. One was I needed to go back and confront my boss because a lot of the things that had happened, I hadn't fully fully navigated them the way I should,
Right.
because, you're afraid of losing the job. But at this point, I was like, I almost lost my life.
Yes.
Losing a job is the least of
Is
it.
the least. I agree.
Right? So I decided to go and do that. And that didn't go well, but I did it anyway because I needed to for myself.
Correct.
It didn't change the outcome. I still, didn't get what I needed. And then I also decided I was going to just come back for good. Right? Come back and do the things that had led me to the States in the first place, which was go learn as much as I can about leadership.
Maybe that
and
was
come back.
Kind of canon event.
Right.
Yeah.
It was this critical incident that just said, come back and do what you were supposed to be doing. It's not that it was wrong for me to
maybe
stay in the
self-realization at that point of time that, yes, I need to do something more.
I need to do something different.
Than just doing a job and coming back. I need to do a great impact.
Exactly.
Which is what you're doing right now.
Exactly. So I was having impact until I wasn't, right? Which is how sometimes when you outgrow a job, right?
Yeah.
And things have changed around you and you haven't kind of kept up with the change. Anyway, all that to say, I decided, let me just come back home for good, right? As opposed to just for sabbatical. First, of course, I was on medical leave for a while. But then the job is telling me, you have to tell us when you're coming back. I'm like, the doctors are saying they don't know when I can come back because I'm still unwell.
Correct.
I suffered a heart attack and COVID.
Yeah.
I almost died and you're pushing me to come back?
Come back.
So anyway, they told me, maybe you should just quit then. Say, okay, we can do that. So I quit the job, which is not easy to do when you have a tenured faculty position, right?
Yeah.
They couldn't have fired me unless, I'd done something illegal.
Correct.
But what's the point of keeping the job and losing your soul, right? Or losing your health?
Of course.
So that's how I ended up coming back and decided, I'd registered a business back in 2012. Said, well, it's time to revive this business and do the things I had said I was going to do then, which was get involved in coaching and training and writing for a non-academic audience. Right? Which is how this book came about.
Has come out.
Right? And just do the things that, as a midlife woman, I want impact.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And so do the things that I feel can have more impact. It's not that academia was wrong. It was right for me for many years.
Absolutely.
But I outgrew that environment.
That's what, you need to do something more than just a job.
Than just a job and than just paying bills.
Right.
But, I think the challenge had been when, first of all, there's the divorce and all that stuff. But there's also the fact that I was raising young kids. So even though I was in midlife and experiencing that midlife
crisis, I know.
Unsettled sense of dissatisfaction, right? I was also raising younger kids. And so I was navigating two different life events, right? In terms of,
it's not easy.
Most people in their late 40s are looking towards being empty nesters.
Correct.
I am looking towards sending my children to elementary school, know. So it was an interesting time of life. But the best thing that could have happened was just saying, okay, let's just do it the way it is. Let's figure it out. How do I become effective as a midlife transitioner?
Perfect.
Even though I've got this thing where I'm still raising kids, and so I still have bills to pay, but I also want to have impact.
Correct.
Right?
And it's not easy to come to that conclusion because it takes a lot of back and forth. There is that drama inside your head that's happening.
Yep.
Is it the right step to do? What if I fail? What?
Yep.
So I think that's how this Imposter Syndrome book has...
That's how it came about. That's how it came about. Basically, I had told myself right there, when I'm lying on that hospital bed in 2021, I'm going to start writing not for publication, for getting tenure and promotion and all that stuff, but I'm going to start writing for impact. I'm going to start writing so that the women who, again, for me, I've always felt a strong call towards serving women, things that they can read, easily understand, and easily digest and use, right? And resonate with. Rather than, when I do academic writing, a lot of it is behind a paywall.
Of course.
Right?
Though someone might be using it at some point of time.
They're using it.
This is much more than that. It's larger.
This is much more. This is much more. And, and I don't underestimate the power of the academic work I did, because I still hear about it from, people who are doing their masters or whatever. I came across your work and suddenly things were making sense, because you were writing about people that I could, I know those names, right?
Yes.
You're writing about their leadership. I know those things. But for non-academic writing, for the kind of writing I want to do, it's that it needs to be, it's not to dummy it down, because the women I'm writing to are very intelligent women.
Yes.
It's to just get to the practical stuff quickly.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Translate theory into practice quickly.
And especially in African region, in Kenya, these things being discussed, I was so happy actually, because I started, after that Women in Leadership program, I started, there was a very small discussion about this imposter syndrome that time. And then I started doing some research. Then I also did join John Maxwell's leadership. So in that, they have a podcast, and I listen to that podcast like religiously. And they talk about all this. And I would really love to discuss all those topics in Kenya. And when I saw your book, I said, yes, there are people who really want to bring that kind of knowledge, that kind of awareness here. And it is so important. You're doing really a great job there.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's how that came about. And normally, I kept telling myself, I want to write a whole book. I've got so many things to write about. All these things I've done academically, I can now translate them. But this opportunity came about when the publisher, they reached out and said, we want to do a couple of books. Would you be interested? They had asked me before, like, I think 2 years before, and I'd said no. This time I said, well, this is a good place to start. Right? I start by writing a chapter and, testing out my sort of non-academic writing muscle. Right? I mean, I'm a blogger, so it's not like I don't write, but it's like there's a different way in which you write when you kind of have an idea of who you're writing to. Right? And so I'm writing to my friends. I'm writing to my former schoolmates. I'm really thinking about the women I know while I'm writing. And so I agreed to contribute a chapter on imposter syndrome. What was interesting was at the same time as I was agreeing to that, I also found a program on becoming an imposter syndrome informed coach. Right? And this program was by Dr. Valerie Young, and she's one of the pioneers of writing and talking about imposter syndrome. She started doing that work in about 1982 when she was a doctoral student herself. Right? When she read the very first piece that had been written about it and sort of felt, wow, this feels like me, right? These women were talking about experiencing these imposter feelings, and she's like, oh, I experienced that myself as a doctoral student. So she decided to make that her research area. Right? And so she spent 40 years doing this work. She has a book about it. She has, she's done TED Talks and all that stuff. And so she decided to do this imposter syndrome informed coach training. And at first, when I saw it, it was a bit too expensive. But then, the second time they were offering it, they made it an on-demand program rather than a live program. So that made it a little bit cheaper. I said, well, these two things have come at the same time. Why not? So I started writing the chapter as I was taking the program. By the time the book was published, I also got my certification.
Amazing.
So one of only 2 certified imposter syndrome coaches in Kenya. The other one being Pauline Keraide. And she did a different program.
Yeah, I'm planning to do an episode with her.
Yeah.
As soon as she gives me an appointment.
So we're the 2 imposter syndrome informed coaches in this context. And
you have done some coaching then? You have got some people who come to...
Yes, I do coaching. I've been doing coaching for a while. I was doing coaching without... formally saying that for many years, because when you work with doctoral students, at least in the American system, it's really not, it's more of a coaching process, right? So I'd been doing this since 2008. But in 2021, when I decided I was going to pivot, right? Then I decided, now let me start getting these certifications and trainings to really prepare myself for coaching. So I've done, the imposter syndrome was the most recent one. but I also did Gino's emotional intelligence
Oh, okay.
practitioner.
Okay.
So I'm a certified emotional intelligence practitioner. And that's something I'd been wanting to do for many years as well.
Okay.
But sometimes when we are out there,
it looks like you're so happy doing all
I
this
am
stuff.
so happy
Because
doing all
whenever
this stuff.
even you are saying it, it's that smile comes on your face. You're really,
so
really happy
doing
with
this
that.
stuff. And before that, I did something called leadership circle profile,
Okay.
which is specifically on leadership, right? And again, I did that a couple of years ago, and it's wonderful. It's the most exhaustive leadership assessment anybody can do.
It's called
leadership circle profile.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And it's a 360 assessment. So you assess yourself and you get people who are above you at your level, the ones who are subordinate from you. And to me, I know for a fact it's the most exhaustive because I'm familiar with most of the assessments out there.
Okay.
Right. It's my research area. So I've been doing this for a long time. And when I looked at it, I was like, wow, it combines a lot of other elements that are included in other assessments and brings them all into this. It's literally a circle that shows you, how you do as a leader, from self-awareness, from, your relationship skills, and even your actual leadership effectiveness.
Okay.
So it's a really useful tool. So that was the first one that I did.
People should take note of it. If you really want to explore yourself, be self-aware about it, maybe you can actually go and see about that.
And you can do the self-assessment for free.
Oh, really?
Right.
Okay. So
that's 360.
I think then I think everyone should just go and do
right?
that.
You start from there. So if people go to leadershipcircle.com, they'll find that. But they can do that for free. And then if you want to continue, then you do the 360. Okay. I like the 360 because as a coaching tool, it gives us a lot of data points to work with.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Because one week we might be looking at your self-awareness. The next week we'll be looking at your relationship skills. The next week we might be looking at how your ethics and your ability to be courageous, to stand up for what you believe in. The next week we might be looking at your actual leadership effectiveness. So it's really, really useful. It's a very useful coaching tool. Okay. Right? Okay. Sometimes people do it as part of a leadership development program. Sometimes they do it as an individual coaching tool, whatever the case. So those are the 3 tools that I have so far. I still have a desire to do more because
learning,
I enjoy
once you're addicted to learning, it never ends.
I enjoy learning. Right now, I'm actually doing my formal coach training.
Okay.
Right? Because I want to go the way of ICF accreditation.
Okay.
So I'm about a third way through my formal coach training with B&G Consulting.
Okay.
That is George and Beverly Nudu, who've been coaches in Kenya for a very long time.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all the stuff that I'm working on myself so that I can be the most effective coach.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the things John Maxwell also keeps on repeating.
Right.
If you don't grow inside, you cannot grow outside, and you cannot help anyone else grow.
Exactly. So it has to be an inside job.
Yeah, it has to be
right.
An inside.
We have to do.
It has to start from you.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So the tools are useful. Obviously, there's 20 years of leadership research and experience that cannot be. That's not a tool, right?
But,
right? That's not a tool. And
no, it is. It is indirectly. It's not like
it's more than a tool, right? Because it's a foundation for everything else. Correct. The same way, whatever experience you've had before you become a coach is very useful when you're coaching.
Correct.
Because you can often resonate with people's experiences. And so for me, it's like my own experience is a 360 experience in that sense. It's full circle moment. I started off because I wanted to be involved in leadership development. I did leadership education for almost 2 decades. Now I'm more focused on leadership development, even though I still do some leadership education. I still do dissertation advising.
Okay.
I work in 3 institutions in the US.
Okay.
I'm looking at getting more involved at Strathmore with their PhD program. As one of their supervisors. So I'm still a leadership educator.
Yeah, and I think someone who has such great, rich exposure or, knowledge, the sky is also not the limit.
Yeah, there's something very fulfilling about being able to bring all this back home.
Correct.
Right? Because this is where my
foundations
are.
That is really the most important or the best way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
feels really good to be back home doing the things I could not
Because
even
we
have
really
fully
need this kind
imagined.
of, we really need this kind of discussions, this kind of coaches
Yeah.
in the country.
I could not have
So-
imagined this back in 2002, right? That this is what it would look like, because
Correct.
obviously so much has changed.
Yeah.
When I came back to Kenya, even though I used to come every year, it still felt like I had come to a foreign country.
Oh, okay.
Because when you're
So
gone
you
for...
never even imagined of...
Yeah, when you've been gone for 2 decades, it's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Right?
And you get used to that environment, the place, everything.
Yeah. Right. But now I've been back, 4 years or whatever, and it's feeling like I'm beginning to feel like I'm more at home, right? I am more settled. I'm getting involved in different organizations, in different networking groups, and right, this afternoon I'll be going to Executive Connect, and right. So those kinds of things help me to learn what's really happening here. Correct. Right? Because I couldn't just take what I had done in America and plonk it over here.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
Right? There has
Kenya
to be
is a
adaptation and change and relearning. Unlearning some things, correct. Right? Leaving some things behind, expecting that everything will work straight up.
It doesn't.
Not so much. We're a very relational culture. So there's a lot of relationship building that I've needed to do over the last few years. And it's only now that I'm beginning to see the fruits of some of those relationship building activities, right? Where you're like, somebody thinks of you when they enter a room.
Correct. It takes time.
And they call you and say, oh, by the way, right? There's somebody you should meet.
Correct.
But initially it was very frustrating to just try and figure it out. And right, I left when I was 21, 29. I came back when I was 50, 47, whatever, right? So it was a long time.
It was. So tell me now more about this imposter syndrome. What it is, what is that you would like to share with the viewers?
Sure. So imposter syndrome, it sounds like a psychological problem. It's really not. It sounds like a disease. It's not a disease, right? It's more of a mindset and a behavior, right? And in terms of the mindset, it is self-doubt on steroids. And why I say self-doubt on steroids is because it's when you start to second guess yourself. Right? So one of the examples, actually it was Pauline who gave me this example, and I was like, my goodness, that really hits hard. She talked about how one time she won an award. She was told she's won this award, and she's like, what award is this? Right? Who are you people? How do you know me? Where did you find out about me? Right? Like she was really questioning them. Right? Like, what do you mean I won? And it took her a while to accept that actually she deserved that award. Right? Because sometimes we think imposter syndrome just limits you from doing things. Sometimes it even limits you from accepting, right?
Of who you are.
How good you are.
Yeah.
Like you're as good as you are, right?
Correct.
And so it's that sense of, you doubt yourself, but it's beyond self-doubt. It's you second guess yourself. It's, for me, let me give my own example. When I first came back, this is where I began to realize something had happened to me, right? So we know physically, right? I was tired. I was burnt out. I ended up in the hospital. But psychologically and mentally, something had also happened from all these experiences of being told I'm not as good as I think I am. Right? Which is what happens in the States. There's a sense of being... First, you're presumed incompetent just by the color of your skin, right? And it's like you have to constantly be demonstrating your competence.
And that is so overwhelming. I mean, it drains.
It's draining.
It drains. Yeah,
it's draining, right? And so you spent 20 years proving that you're competent, but you're even sometimes getting penalized, which is what happened in my last job. I was getting penalized for being good, basically too good.
Too good.
Right?
It happens.
I was being penalized. I was asked at the interview, and this should have been the thing that should have made me think twice. Right. But they asked me, when do you do all these things? Right? They're looking at my CV and they're asking, when do you get all this stuff done? I'm like, what do you mean, when do I get all this stuff done? Exactly. I have the same 24 hours as everybody else.
Yeah, it's just I'm good at it.
To these people, being that good was annoying. But I kind of
I think there is kind of insecurity. Yeah.
But I took it kind of come on, people, what do you mean, right?
Yeah.
Isn't this why
You
I'm
didn't
even
think,
in this
you didn't
interview
think that
room?
it is that serious. Yeah.
I didn't think it was that serious. I mean, it sat in my spirit somewhere, but I didn't think it was that serious. But later on, I began to notice that there definitely was a sense in which they resented, some of my colleagues resented my competence, right? The students presumed I was incompetent by the color of my skin and had to accept that I was competent, but they still resented that.
Correct.
Right? So
Correct.
they resist. They
Right.
resist the things you're teaching, not because there's something wrong with what you're teaching, but because it's you who's teaching it.
Yeah.
And at this point, I was teaching ethics and leadership.
Right.
Right? And they're like, why do we have to be taught ethics by some woman from Africa?
Wow. Why not?
It should be a Muzungu, right?
Yeah.
It should be an older white male, in fact,
Correct.
right? And so those resistances, eventually they start to really wear on you, right? And so I went up for a promotion and I was denied the promotion.
Oh.
And in the letter telling me why I was being denied the promotion, they said my standards were above the college standards. My publication standards were above the college standards.
So how does that...
However,
does not qualify.
My teaching isn't as good as I think it is because there's a few students who complained about my teaching. And then they say, however, we realize that the reason they complain about your teaching is because you're Black and immigrant and female.
Wow.
However, you need to do something different. So I'm asking them, what should I do differently? Change the color of my skin? Fake a Muzungu accent?
Is serious.
I mean, what do you really want me to do? How am I going to change this? And normally, if you're denied a promotion, you get an opportunity to go up again, but you go through this mentoring process. They couldn't do that for me because what are you going to mentor me with?
Nothing.
You
are already overqualified.
Exactly. So I was denied a promotion on account of being basically overqualified. And that thing really, really hurt my spirit. I say it was a soul injury. Which is why I said at the beginning I had to go and confront my boss, right? And even though this had happened in 2019 and I went back to confront him in 2021.
But at least you did it.
I needed to do it to get it out of my system, right? But that's why later on as I'm, sort of navigating, setting up the business in Kenya, doing this coaching and leadership development, whatever, I began to realize I was really second guessing myself, right? Like I was being hesitant. My coach at the time used to keep telling me, but you've got all these qualifications. You've got a 37-page CV. You have a lot to give.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have that. They have all the qualifications. It's just they don't take that one step.
And it's a small step, right? And he just kept saying, you just do it, right? Start small even. So I'll try a little bit and hesitate. And then I started to ask myself, but why am I hesitating? I'm actually a very confident woman. Like, I know I'm confident. So what's going on here? And that's when I began to realize there's self-doubt and confidence can actually coexist in a very uncomfortable way, right? Because it's not that I wasn't confident about my qualifications. Yes, I did go and start earning all these certifications because I needed to satisfy myself. But it's like, I know what I'm capable of doing, but I'm second guessing myself so much, I can't get it done. That's when I came across this whole thing.
That line.
Right. That's when I came across this thing and it finally named it, that I was really struggling with imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome is not for the incompetent.
Correct.
The incompetent are just incompetent. And sometimes they don't even know they're incompetent, so they don't have any imposter feelings.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
It's the competent. It's the ones who actually are good at what they do, who struggle with that self-doubt, right? It's the one who wins an award and questions why she's winning the award. It's the one who, gets a promotion and once they get into that position, they start second guessing themselves.
Yeah, or maybe
and
did they give it for any other purpose?
Right.
Why did they give it to me?
Why
and
did they
not
give
that
it to
person?
me? And, are they going to discover that I'm not as good as they think I am?
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And so I had to overcome that for myself and, remind myself of all I had accomplished over the many years I lived. If you can accomplish all that in the US, where you're being seen as less than, right? Why can't I do that in
own
Kenya,
country?
In my own country, where the challenges are different. There's challenges, but they're different, right? And so I had to start working on myself and reminding myself and sort of tell myself, what's the worst that can happen? I might fail.
Exactly. So what is the tools?
It wouldn't be the first time to fail,
What are those tools that you used to overcome
The
it?
first thing is just to name the thing.
Okay.
right? To
Just
recognize what it is.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is to talk about it. Because when you keep it in, you begin to suffer from shame. Right? And shame can be debilitating. You begin to suffer from fear of being found out.
Correct.
Right? And that can be debilitating. There's, that sense of, if you name it and then you talk about it, you start to disempower it. Right? And it's not that you will go through life never having those moments of self-doubt. But when they show up, you'll know exactly what's going on.
Right.
You can name it and you can tell. You can even give it a name. Right? I sometimes think of mine as Kavura. My middle name is Wambura.
Okay.
Wambura or Nyambura. And sometimes I like to call it Kavura. Kavura is a small Wambura, right?
Okay.
The smaller, I'm
okay.
Sit on the side cheek, right? Just sit
so
aside.
That inner critic.
We got to do what we got to do, right? Like that inner critic, you give it a name, right? You set it aside. It's like, I see you. And you do have a purpose because, it does keep us humble, right? But you're not going to stop me from doing what I need to do. And if I fail, so what? I'll rise again. It wouldn't be the first time.
Correct. I think that is what people need to understand. That if you feel it's okay to fail.
It's okay to fail.
Don't keep those high parameters that I will never fail in life. You are going to fail whether you accept it or you don't accept it.
Exactly.
Rather life, you accept, learn and go ahead.
Right? In life, there will be failures.
There will be failures.
The best you can do is take them on and say, okay, we failed here. What did we learn from
it?
One of the things that Dr. Young talks about, in imposter syndrome is that it's a competence distortion. Right? It's not that you're not competent. It's that you start to doubt your
whether
competence.
You're competent
or you start to mislabel. Right? So, for example, for me, sometimes it's perfectionism. Right?
Okay.
Those books I keep saying I want to write, they're done. Right? I write all the time. I'm always writing. They're in my computer, sitting there. Right? Why? Because I'm waiting for it to be perfect.
Correct. But perfection is, for me, I always say perfection is a myth.
It's unrealistic.
It's a myth.
Right? It's unrealistic because you will always find something you can change.
And there will be always someone who would like it to be better, but that is your version.
This is my and unfortunately, the problem is that my version is not good enough for me, right?
Yeah.
And that stops you from going forward. So one of the things that I do is send it out, right? Say, I'm going to send it out, even if it's send it out to a friend of mine to read and give me feedback, right? Because then that gives you a different perspective, as opposed to I'm stopping myself from going forward and limiting. Nobody else has seen this thing. But I'm deciding it's not good enough. The other one that sometimes happens for people is the sense of like you're supposed to just be really good at everything. Like you're a natural genius. Well, I know I'm not a natural genius. But there are people who struggle with that, where they just think it shouldn't be this hard. Like, I shouldn't have to struggle so hard to get this done. Right? There are not many natural geniuses. Even the ones who look like they're natural geniuses spent many thousands of hours perfecting their craft. Right? So there's some of those distortions that we can sometimes have that will keep us from moving forward. The thing is, again, recognize what it is, give it that name, label it as what it is. Remind yourself that it's a distortion. It's not reality. It's a story you're telling yourself.
Right.
Then move through it.
So these are like four or five personalities that you have talked about?
I talked about 2. There's actually 5 according to Dr. Young's work. But I've talked about 2. They can read the rest in the book because we want them to read.
Of course.
But those sometimes they're called imposter types.
Right.
But I like to call them the competence distortions. Right? Because really, it's not that you lack competence. It's that you're giving yourself some very unrealistic expectations that you then cannot achieve.
Correct. It's like, sometimes some organizations give the sales target so high that you cannot ever achieve. Yeah. And then you're always said, oh, you're not performing, you're not performing. But it's not.
You keep moving the goalpost. At least on an individual level, that's what we do. That's why there are distortions. It's that it's never good enough. You can always go further, right?
Yeah.
And I'm even telling myself this about the accreditations and the certifications that I keep pursuing. Faith, at which point are they going to be enough? Because there's a very high likelihood I'll be going for one every, as long as I can afford to do it.
I totally agree with you.
But
because
at some point you got to say, Come on, girl. Enough is enough, right?
No. I agree with you because learning is my something I love as well.
Yeah.
That's why when I joined John Maxwell, and they have a huge, this display of various courses you can do, various books you can, and I was like, a child in a candy land. Let
Yes.
oh God,
Yes.
how much can I learn? But then at one point of time, on my career, I did started with chartered accountancy. I did my intermediate and I cleared my papers for finals as well. But there were 4 papers that were to be cleared. And then I got married and came to Kenya. So for many years, I kept on thinking that I should go back to India and finish that, because that one thing was there in my head.
Yeah, it was
that
holding
I
you
need
back.
to, I need to, without that, I cannot get promotion. But now I have come to what you say, self acceptance is what I would say.
Yes.
That it is not required and that should not define me.
Exactly.
I can do so much more and there's so much learning that can happen. So I don't need that one certificate, to tell me
that certificate, you will get it.
Yeah.
And then you'll decide, now I need this other one.
Exactly.
And then you get that one, and then now I need this
Another
other
one.
one. And so that's why it's a distortion. It's that it's the story you're telling yourself. Right? And what I recognized also is that for me, and I'm sure it's true for many women, it's some of the experiences we go through are what brings up those feelings.
Yes,
we
I
were
was
not
about
born
to come
like
there.
this,
Yes.
right? I watch my children.
How do you develop these kind of patterns?
So for me specifically was those experiences of discrimination, those experiences of being treated as less than, those experiences of being told I'm not, you're extremely good, but right?
Yeah.
Of people finding ways to penalize you for your for your excellence. But sometimes it's how you're raised.
Yeah.
If children keep being told, boys don't do this, girls don't do
Yeah.
this, and then you want to be an engineer and you're a girl, right?
Yes.
And you're being told, no, engineering
There
is
is
for
no need
boys.
for you just
right?
go for commerce.
And then you end up going into that career.
Correct.
But in the back of your mind, there's still that thing that's telling you, engineering was really not your, you really should have done something, you should have gone into nursing. Nothing wrong with nursing, but you're being told.
Correct. You're being told.
You're being told.
Because of not your competence.
No, it's not your competence.
Intelligence or nothing.
No,
but
it's
just
your gender.
because you're gender.
It's socialization. Sometimes it's in schools where, girls would be told, girls are not very good at math, don't.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't very good at math, but I was a literature nerd. I was an English nerd, right? There were things I was good at. And what my mother told me at the time was, Faith, stop worrying about, passing your sciences.
Yeah.
Terrible advice, but she was a teacher. She knew what she was saying.
She knew, yeah.
Stop worrying about the sciences.
Correct.
Focus on the things you're actually good at.
Correct.
So I passed really well in the things I was good at. I had the A's, and then I had C's and D's in the rest of it. I still made it to university.
Exactly.
Right?
And you still managed to
become
a coach, a person who you are today.
And so it's, rather than focusing on those things that you're supposedly not good at and spending so much energy trying to become better in them, why not look at your strengths?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that you build on what you're good at and you figure out how to mitigate against the things you're not good at. Right. If I'm not a good mathematician or accountant, then I find an accountant to do my accounting.
You cannot do everything.
I see numbers and my eyes start to go like this. Let me find somebody who can do that. But I am really good at words, so I can write my heart out, right?
Perfect.
And so a lot of the imposter feelings arise because of socializations that we have experienced, right? It's not an innate thing. That's why I said it's not a psychological disease. It's not a disorder.
Right.
It is socialization. It is experiences that have impacted our sense of self, that have impacted how we view competence.
Correct.
Sometimes it's, you start to set those unrealistic expectations because you think you must be bigger and better. Sometimes it's unfair comparison. Right? You're comparing yourself with John and Harry and Dominic and Jacinta and Jessica and right?
No, sometimes it's even age. Like initially,
and
the way we
discussed,
to become that leader, I should be senior enough. Yeah.
Right, and sometimes that happens with younger women.
Leader, yeah,
it happens sometimes with younger women. This happened a long time ago, and it happened when I was still working in the church. I'm going to try not to give all the details, but let me say how the critical incident, and this actually was part of why I went to the States. I was helping to start a school for my church, right? And So we gotten to the point where we needed to start hiring personnel because, as an inaugural school board, there's only so much you can do. At some point, you have to get somebody who's employed to do this thing. So we're talking about that. We're having those discussions. And somebody asks in the meeting, by the way, why isn't Faith they're going to be the first principal? And this pastor says, well, Faith is young, she's unmarried, and she has no children.
So that disqualifies you.
We were going to start from kindergarten, right? Now, the correct answer to that would have been, Faith is not a kindergarten teacher.
Correct.
Because whoever you get to start the school with
should
not
have
only needs to be the principal of the school,
kids,
but also needs to be able to teach at that level.
Correct.
Because, it's scrappy,
Correct.
right? It's a startup. It's not, it doesn't have VC money. So, that would have been the correct answer.
Correct.
Faith is trained as a high school teacher.
Yeah.
So she can't really teach kindergarten. So we need to start with somebody who can teach kindergarten.
Correct. Makes sense.
Instead, my disqualification was, she's young, she's unmarried, she has no children.
Yeah.
And hearing that come out of that man's mouth, first I was shocked. And I'm the kind who can't rearrange my face. When I'm shocked, I am. Right? And I was so shocked that I didn't even respond. Normally, because I have a mouth from here to China, I can really be blunt. But in that instant, I was too shocked to even say anything. Right? And then some people kind of laughed it off like, that's funny, right?
It's not funny.
But what it did for me was tell me, okay, people have different ways of looking at competence, right? For this older gentleman, for somebody to be the headmistress of a kindergarten, they needed to have children, they needed to be married, they needed to have all this stuff. For me, I need to have the qualifications. Right? Age is not a qualifier.
Correct.
So what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to get my doctoral degree, because at this time I was doing my master's. I said, I'm going to go get my doctoral degree so that the next time somebody denies me a job, they'll say, she's young, she's unmarried, she has no children, but she's the most qualified candidate. Because I had my doctorate by the time I was 32. Right? And it's like, let me get all my papers in order. So when you're discriminating against me for my age or my unmarried status, you cannot say I'm not qualified.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
It's those kinds of things that, they cause what I call soul injuries. Right? That thing goes and sits somewhere in your gut.
Everyone,
I don't even realize.
Especially women, definitely they go through so many stuff like that. You cannot do this. You cannot laugh loud. I don't know what all.
Exactly.
Things.
In America, there's also the angry black woman. This trope that says we're not supposed to express our emotions because when you express your emotions, you're an angry black woman. Oh. So you're constantly trying to rearrange your face even when you're upset because apparently you shouldn't show emotion. I'm like, hogwash. If I'm upset, I'm upset.
Correct. Yeah.
If it's for a legitimate reason, then let me be, right?
Yeah.
But you are going to be judged harshly. And those things start to injure you. They start, so you start to second guess yourself. You start to make yourself smaller to fit into the boxes that people have created for you, right? You start to shrink. It doesn't really work well. And that's why the burnout happens.
Correct.
Right? That's why, sometimes it's the mental health challenges. We get into depression, we get anxiety, all this stuff. Then you add the changes that happen with midlife. Yes. The perimenopause.
Oh God, there is, I don't know. For women, I don't know. There is so much to go through.
There's so much to go through.
I think the list is never ending.
It's a long list.
Yeah,
but for me, I think the bottom line is recognize what's going on. Yeah. Right?
Awareness.
Give a name to it. Right? If your confidence is about perhaps you're feeling, you've gotten your children, now there's a lot more of you in the middle, right? Either go and lose the weight or learn how to be comfortable with your middle.
Of course.
Right?
Don't struggle in between.
Don't struggle in between. Find a way to deal with it. If it's a coach you need to help you, get a coach. If it's a therapist you need to help you, get a therapist. Get the help you need so that you can be the best version of yourself. Right?
Agreed.
Not what other people think is the best version.
What is best for you.
The version that works for you.
Yep.
So that you can give the best of yourself, to your family, and to the people that you serve. Right? Yep. It's the only thing you can do. You can't be anybody else. I mean, everybody else is already taken. So just
Of
become the
course, be
best you.
you.
Yeah,
Be you.
just be you.
So, as I know there is so much to talk about, to learn from you. But as we have to conclude this episode, what would be those maybe three tips that you would like to share for, let's talk about women, because even me, I like to talk and help
Mhm.
women in these areas
Mhm.
that they should be doing to overcome this syndrome, like maybe practice it on
Yeah.
three major
Yeah.
tips.
Okay. So let's begin with what we said earlier. Are you actually experiencing imposter syndrome, or is this just some run of the mill self doubt? If it feels like it's that deep, like really it is beyond self doubt, it is stopping me from doing the things I should do, where is it coming from? Because if you don't know the source, how are you going to unpack it?
Right.
Yeah. So think about, where is this coming from? Is it some experience I've had recently? Sometimes it's people's marital relationships that cause that.
Of course.
Right. And I've seen a lot
maybe
of that
even
where
childhood trauma.
Right. It could be childhood trauma. Figure out where the source is. Deal with the source.
Okay.
Right. So again, for me, I always say therapy. Right. Don't underestimate the power of therapy. Also, sometimes therapy comes through informal ways, like having good girlfriends you can talk to, right? Do you have a friend or two or three you could sit around the table and have these conversations with and say, I've been feeling like this. Anybody else feeling? Because sometimes, honestly, you need to realize you're not alone.
Correct.
Right? Recognize that if it is imposter syndrome or it's just self-doubt, whatever it is, you're not alone. It is common to all women, right?
Correct.
And think about, who am I becoming in this time in my life? Whether you're in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s, who am I becoming? What would be the best version of me?
Yeah.
Right? And then pursue that version. Right?
Because I
Pursue
think
that
at
version.
one point of time during childhood, everyone has some image, something that they want to become.
Yeah.
I don't think there is any
And
person in
sometimes
this
that
world
changes.
who, yeah, it changes.
I
but
wanted to be
there
a
has
divorce lawyer. I never did law. I was very specific. I wanted to be a divorce lawyer. But here I am. I'm a teacher and a coach. And I
Wow.
love it. And I don't want to be a divorce lawyer anymore. But that was my first career aspiration.
That
Lawyer.
was great, Faith.
Lawyer.
I really love the spirit, the way you talk, the way you have explained the scenarios, or how the imposter syndrome, like the way you have unpacked it, or it has been great discussion. Thank you for your time. It has been wonderful talking to you. I would love to talk to you again.
Pleasure's all
Anytime,
mine.
whenever you have time, we will definitely catch up again.
It is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
So, viewers, if you have this deep feeling of inner critic challenging you and you really feel it's kind of imposter syndrome, I would request, go and talk to Faith. I will put her emails, her contacts in my bio. You can go and check it out, talk to her, and I'm sure she will be able to help you out. If I need help, I'm definitely going to go and talk to her. So, thank you. Keep listening to my podcast. We'll be sharing so many other leaders and their stories with you so that you can learn and you can improve and grow. Until then, keep learning, keep thriving.